Macca's Reviews.
Hey guys, Macca here. Welcome to my informal review slash first impressions video of Jazzpunk, available February 7th on Steam for $15. Now, Jazzpunk is not your average game, and it doesn't really fall into the typical categories that I can talk about when reviewing a game. Like, I can talk about the graphics and the sound. You can see them on screen. They are very stylized. The sound is very good, and the game takes place in the 50s, and it actually does feel very stylized, and it feels right. But in terms of the mechanics and all those types of things, I can't really review this as a typical game because it is so unique. Now, what is Jazzpunk for those wondering? Jazzpunk is a comedy adventure game in which you play a spy, and most of the gameplay is centered around telling you jokes. Now, those jokes are pretty random and sporadic, but in a good way, and a lot of them are either very sexual or have to do with video game references such as Frogger, Street Fighter, or Quake. There's a whole bunch in there, and if you've been a gamer since the 90s, I think you'll really appreciate some of the video game references that this game does have. The game more or less does also have some adult humor, which in my opinion is always a plus. Now, the story, as I said, you play a spy, and the controls are very simple. You move with the movement keys, and you look around with your mouse, and there are two interaction buttons. You can interact with something, and then you can cycle through your inventory. Also, the game has 100% functional controller support, which is always a plus in my book. Now, this game is quite unique because if you were to try, you can actually complete the first level in about 1 minute. Now, you'd be crazy to do that. If you're not taking at least 20 minutes on the first level, you're playing this game completely wrong. This is a game where you're given an objective, and if you run from beginning to end of every level, you can probably complete it in 1 or 2 minutes. But in the levels, there's so many Easter eggs and secrets and funny things to find that you want to explore every nook and cranny of every level of the game in order to make sure you get all the great jokes that are littered throughout this game. And as I said, the game is absolutely hilarious. One of the funniest games I've played in literally years. I would even rank it up there with Stanley Parable on its level of humor. Although the humor is very different, it is very, very good. Now, unfortunately, there are a few things I want to touch on that aren't necessarily the greatest or may turn off some people, so I just want to speak about those before I kind of wrap up the review. The ending is a little bit abrupt, but I don't think people will be picking this game up for its story. Also, I tried my best to take a slow pace through the game and make sure I enjoyed all of the jokes, looked through every corner of the map, and I finished the game in about 2.5 to 3 hours, which is a little short for some people to get over that initial investment of actually purchasing the game. Performance-wise, I did have 2 problems with the game. For whatever reason, I'm not sure if it's on my end with my computer, but I did have the game try to load a save that I never actually made, which completely hung up my computer and I had to restart it. And then I also just had a small problem when trying to switch my screen resolutions and the game crashed. Those were easily, fixable once I did get to them, but there are minor performance issues that some people may encounter when trying to fiddle around with the game and its options. Now it's time to wrap up the review, and if you follow my channel, I rarely give out scores unless the game is super in-depth and I really have a long chance to play it. Yes, I did beat this game, but I don't want to give it a score because I don't want to turn off people that might really enjoy the experience, and I also don't want to persuade people that might not necessarily like it as much. Jazzpunk, in my opinion, is a joke simulator. It takes the player along for a ride where it just throws joke after joke after joke in its face, and they are hilarious jokes, but you're not really interacting with that much in the game. It can sometimes kind of feel like you're just watching an interactive TV show where the jokes are set up by you by interacting with something. Some of the humor can be a little bit crude. Some people may find it even offensive. As long as you go in with an open mind and you're easygoing, you won't have any of those problems. So do I recommend it or do I not recommend it? If you have the money and you would enjoy a comic gold experience, a hilarious 2.5 to 3 hours of gameplay, then I definitely recommend this game. I was laughing out loud, as the kids say, LOLing. literally throughout the game, and there were a few dry spells, but once I kind of caught on to another joke, I fell in love with the game again. I'm going to be recommending this game to my friends to pick up personally, because I know they'll be enjoying it, and the game is absolutely hilarious. With all that being said, I hope you guys can make a pretty good educated decision for yourselves. As always, make sure to comment, like, and subscribe. Those are the 3 things that really help my channel out. And as always, hopefully, I see you next time. Peace.